This is the new Mercedes-Benz GLC. It's hybrid, even with a diesel engine. It costs more than the previous generation, obviously, which also happens to be about as much as a Mazda. Yes, you've heard me. I'll explain. Keep on watching.
The GLC is one of the most successful, in terms of sales, Mercedes models. For the last 2 years of production, the first generation was the best-selling Merc. Success can be a blessing but also a curse, so designers had to think carefully about the changes they want to implement so as not to scare away the customers. And that's probably why at first glance you might think that the second generation GLC is just another facelift. But that's just an illusion. What has changed? From the outside, the car is 6 cm longer and 4 mm lower than its predecessor. The width has not changed, although the track is slightly wider. In my opinion, the GLC is starting to look more and more like a lifted station wagon, and the curves of the new generation make the SUV more similar to the electric EQC model. The biggest changes are inside and under the bonnet. I'll start with the boot, whose capacity in the internal combustion engine variant has increased by 70 liters to 620 liters. Some of this space is under the floor in a storage compartment which has rather irregular shape, but it is possible to fit a cargo cover in here. There's even a way to fasten it across, but I didn't have enough patience.
There's about 450 liters above the floor. That's more or less how much is left in the plug-in hybrid version, in which the traction battery is under the floor. And then there's only a small storage compartment here by the boot lid, just about enough to fit a charging cable.
In the boot there are shopping bag hooks, a 12-volt outlet and buttons for releasing the second row backrests. By the way, the second row backrests can be set at a 90 degrees angle. Nobody can sit in the back, but you can make full use of the cargo space, for example when moving boxes. The boot can be opened and closed with gesture, key fob or buttons on the tailgate.
Watch out, doors don't cover the sills. Also, I advise against the optional side steps, which give the GLC a rugged-ish look, but they don't make getting in and out any easier. Maybe for the kids.
The door pockets are generous. Legroom and headroom are plentiful. By the way, the backrests in the front are quite thin, and this probably adds a few centimeters of legroom in the back. There are 2 climate control zones in the rear, but no USB ports. That's because you have to pay €357 extra for them. Fortunately, at least the 40-20-40 split backrest is standard. It's worth noting that ambient lighting is also in the rear. I recently drove a Nissan Ariya with very elegant ambient lighting, but it was only in the front section of the car.
Big changes in the front versus the previous generation. Now, the first gen GLC didn't have a full-on MBUX infotainment system because of the calendar. The GLC debuted early enough that far-fetched changes inside the cockpit weren't in the cards for it. However, now we have the brand new MBUX, which debuted 2 years ago in the W223 S-Class. Currently, this cockpit layout, which means a smaller screen in front of the driver and a huge screen here on the center console, is available in the C-Class and the AMG SL, among others, reviews of which you will find on my channel, links somewhere on the screen and probably in the video description as well. The new generation of the MBUX infotainment system means it's touch controls for pretty much everything, and also touch buttons on the steering wheel, and I'm not a fan of those. I preferred the original version with these tiny little touchpads and physical buttons around them on the steering wheel, and there was also a touchpad here on the center console, and then there were physical AC buttons under the screen, so that was good. And yeah, I get it. Most of the functions these days, most of the features can be activated by voice, but If instead of asking and waiting for the temperature to change, I could just do it myself without taking my eyes off the road and without diverting my attention from what's happening on the road to talking to the virtual assistant, wouldn't it be easier? The infotainment system itself is, in my opinion, once you stop, quite logical and easy to use. The various functions are grouped logically. It's not a revolution like between OS 7 and 8 in BMW. Mercedes understands its clients, its customers, and Mercedes knows that serving someone something completely new every 2 years or so could end in a heart attack, and then who will buy the next model, right?
Driving position. It's fine. This car gets electrically adjustable seats, mirrors, and steering column. All the settings can be stored with a press of a button or in one of several driver profiles. These require an app, or you can identify yourself with a fingerprint. Both Anna and I found comfortable driving position. Anna also needs to adjust the head-up display position, but that is too stored in the memory settings. Something I noticed about the headrests when I first got into the GLC, there was something off about them. I found the vertical adjustment, but I couldn't figure out the lateral adjustment. Only when taking interior beauty shots from the boot side, I realized there are buttons on the back side of the headrest, and only with the headrests pushed back I can sit comfortably without leaning my head forward. The door pockets are large, cup holders are fine, but tucking a phone into this opening is not particularly convenient. Fortunately, the car reminds you to take your mobile device with you if it's lying on the wireless charger or it's plugged into USB. In addition to one USB port behind the cup holders, good luck using this one, there are also two more under the armrest. This is a pretty deep storage compartment. The glove box is medium size.
While I'm not a fan of this interior color scheme, I appreciate that it's very well screwed together, and that's something that Mercedes had to work on in recent years. Now, no complaints here. And one more thing, under the physical engine start button, there is a physical button to disable the stop and start system, and I appreciate this very much. BMW, watch and learn.
As I mentioned at the beginning, the Mercedes GLC is only available as some sort of a hybrid. These are either mild hybrids or plug-in hybrids. No more 6-cylinder engines. All are 2-liter 4-cylinder units. Power ranges from 197 horsepower in the 220D, which I'm reviewing today, to 381 horsepower in the 400E. Of course, in case of the latter, we're talking about combined power of the internal combustion engine and the electric motor.
The diesel I'm driving today should average about 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers combined. I'm getting closer to 8. You can get less in eco mode, and then the engine shuts off for like coasting, which is fine. Eco mode, however, also cuts any signs of performance and responsiveness, and it takes ages for the car to restart and get going from the lights. If you don't want to piss off everyone behind you, you have to step on it, and then the transmission jerks, the engine howls, and the economy goes to hell. Otherwise, the GLC is quite well soundproofed, for a diesel anyway. Up to speeds of about 140 kilometers per hour, you can hardly hear any wind noise. Mercedes has refined aerodynamics of its compact SUV. Now, I'll go back to performance for a minute and the promised 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time of 8 seconds, and I think it is somewhat achievable, but I did have a problem here. Now, I decided to check whether the GLC 220D has launch control mode. No, it doesn't, but pressing the brake and the accelerator can lead to a situation where for some reason the parking collision prevention system intervenes, and even after letting go of the brake and stepping on the accelerator all the way to the floor, the car refuses to get going. It sort of stumbles very slowly. Only after reaching some threshold speed, the system realizes that, okay, fine, there is no obstacle and you can drive normally. Now, This happened to me a few times when I tried to film the 0 to 100 kilometers acceleration, and that's before I started putting GoPros on the car, because when you stick a GoPro next to the parking sensor, you get the same problem. Anyway, I got 8.5 seconds in comfort mode and 8 seconds and a bit in sport mode. In ideal conditions, I probably would get the 8, but I'm on winter tires, the tarmac was slightly damp, yada yada yada, race driver excuses. Other than that, the GLC drives. It's a luxury tool to get from A to B. The design brief didn't mention driving experience. Theoretically, the GLC can be configured with more sporty options, but I would not spoil the comfort. This one comes with something called the agility control with selective damping, and it's very selective when it comes to damping. As far as I can tell, it does nothing. Instead, I would order something called the off-road engineering pack, and the engineering pack with rear-wheel steering and aromatic air suspension. Basically, comfort and anything to make this SUV-ish like.
The driver assistance systems, not counting the ones related to parking collision prevention, work flawlessly. The excellent 360 camera system helps more with parking than the obtrusive parking brake system. These cameras also come in handy in off-road situations, that is, if anyone actually takes their GLC off-road. But since it's an SUV and it has all-wheel drive, let's do my diagonal approach test. I stop halfway to have limited traction on 2 wheels on the diagonal, and then I try to get moving again, thus putting the all-wheel drive system to the test. Here I can take advantage of the off-road mode and displays showing pitch and roll, as well as camera view through the bonnet just like on a Land Rover. First attempt is in normal mode. The car starts almost instantly, but you can see that the front wheel is spinning just a bit before the traction control stops it. The second attempt is in off-road mode with all the aids active. From behind the wheel it feels about the same, but from the outside it is clear that the traction control stops the front wheel sooner. Also worth mentioning are the digital light headlights with projection function. In addition to displaying the Mercedes-Benz logo on the wall, the system can also show useful information in front of the vehicle related to the situation and dangers on the road ahead. I appreciate also that similar information, such as pedestrian crossing or intersection, appear on the head-up display. Price of the Mercedes-Benz GLC start at €57,632 for the 204 horsepower petrol engine variant. The diesel 220D starts at €60,238. This test example with options costs €78,982.68.
And now get this, a diesel Mazda CX-60 is about the same size. It's also slightly quicker from 0 to 100 km/h, but the 3-litre diesel doesn't add much except possibly higher tax in some markets. A fully loaded CX-60 diesel costs €62,000 and a comparably spec GLC 220D costs €68,000. $6,000 more buys you a Merc. This is the ultimate proof Mazda is indeed premium. And how do you like the new Mercedes-Benz GLC? Perhaps you own the previous gen or the GLK. How is it? Any plans to upgrade to the new one? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.